Episode 5, Homeless in Hollywood. Homelessness didn't start with me looking homeless. It started with me trying to convince myself this was temporary. The first night in the car was scary, but the hardest part wasn't the car. The hardest part was pretending I was still okay. The last episode, I talked about ambition, financial mistakes that I made, and chasing the dream without enough protection. This episode is what happened when the foundation finally cracked. In all honesty, I've been kind of fearing this episode because this is where things hit the fan. So before I get into this, though, I have an ask. I have an ask that I need to ask you. If you've made it this far into this podcast series, season 1, you're with me. Okay? You're with me. I'm going to ask that if you haven't already, please give the videos right now. This is on YouTube, and I'm going to be trying. I may potentially put this out on other platforms as well. But whatever platform you're finding this on, if it's possible for you to endorse it with a thumbs up, a like, whatever that platform uses, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe or share it with someone else. None of these things will cost you anything, but I ask that you do this, please, so that it helps, like, particularly on YouTube, when videos get thumbs up, it helps the algorithm. It helps YouTube know that, oh, people like this video. Maybe we can share it with other people. So I'm asking, please don't hold on to it. Oh, I don't know if I want to give them a like. We're 5 episodes. This is episode 5. At this point, I'm hoping you're still listening because you're getting something out of this. So, okay, that's my shameless self-promotion. Please don't hate me for it. I just want the message to get out to as many people as possible. Okay. Let's talk about when my car became my bedroom. I always felt like I had a nice car. I'm on a trip, a road trip. Shoot, it could be a 10, 20-minute trip. Sometimes I worry about falling asleep, especially if it's kind of late at night. I've always thought my car was super comfortable. A lot of passengers in my car, especially if they're in the back seat, they do fall asleep. It's a Chrysler 300. Makes a great car, but it makes a lousy bedroom. Using it as a bedroom, first of all, as big as the car is, it still was impossible for me to fully stretch out like you would on a bed. That's not happening. So you're always kinda sleeping in this kind of seated, even with the seat all the way back, your feet are dipping down, touching the floor, or whatever. Um, that was the way I could do it. I couldn't really sit in the back seat and stretch out because it's just not wide enough for that. Hmm. So, stretching out on a bed, man, or even on a couch, it just never felt so good as it did after 3, 4 months in my car. The other thing in LA, maybe this isn't everywhere, but you're always worried about where you parked at. For one reason or another, it could be street sweeping, could be 2, 3 hour time limit. Um, there's always this fear of getting towed. So if I left the car, I was always afraid of something happening that maybe I didn't notice. Like, I remember one night, I was under a blanket. I had bought a blanket from Bed Bath& and Beyond to keep myself warm at night, and, some cops came and knocked on my window, and it was like 5 in the morning, 4:30, 5 in the morning, and I'm thinking like, "Oh boy, what's going on?" Because I don't think it's legal to sleep in the car, right? But nonetheless, they were just waking me up to get me to move. But why? Because it was some sort of, bike-a-thon or some sort of bike race going through Hollywood that I was unaware of. So I had to move. They were gonna block off this section of the street. They didn't want any parked cars on the side of the road, whatever, you know. I also had to deal with, like, still had to get gas because even though I might be moving my car a few blocks, that still it was chewing up gas. So I had to keep enough cash flow coming to take care of that. So the car as a bedroom, as a home, was a source of mental exhaustion, in the sense of, is it safe? Am I gonna have to move? Where and then in LA, you might think, oh, I'm gonna go to this street and park there, and you get there, and all the spots are full. You know, so now you got to find another street. What's the backup plan? Mm, I was trying to stay relatively close to the gym I worked out in, I was trying to stay close to this one particular hotel because this hotel is a nice, trendy, hip hotel in LA that's open, pretty much all hours. Like for people to walk in there at 3, 4 in the morning, that would not be like that you're not gonna immediately draw attention because you walked in there at 3 or 4 in the morning. People aren't gonna necessarily uh, feel like they need to approach you. So I would go into this. If I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that's typically what I would do is I would walk over to this particular hotel, and there was a bathroom on the ground floor of the lobby right by the restaurant slash bar. And I would go in and, just be on my phone, like perhaps I was meeting somebody in the middle of the night that was staying at the hotel, and just kind of, listen, fake listen, maybe have a fake conversation. Um, and that would get me past the clerk, the attendant that's wondering if they need to help you. they see you on the phone, they just kinda assume you're dealing with some business, and so I used that technique a few times to get to the bathroom, and then, come out and meet my friend outside on the at my car a couple blocks away. Forgive me, alright? I had to do something. Alright, speaking of the gym, you might think that, like, "Well, he's got a gym membership still?" But considering my just my base for my rent was 3,000 a month in that particular place, plus bills, parking, garage, the gym I was working out at was Equinox, and I don't know, for all of you out there, Equinox is a premium. I was paying like $300 a month to work out at that gym, but, you know, it was partially because the other gym that I was a member at, 24 Hour Fitness, because of COVID, it shut down and it never came back. And I was hoping to go there because it wasn't over $100. I think I was paying, I don't know, 50, 70, maybe 70 a month to go there. But with COVID, Equinox was the closest option. And um, when you think about, okay, my bill's 3,000 a month or 300 a month. Well, 300 a month seemed like something that I could kind of maintain. So I kept the membership throughout this time, and I was in the gym every day. I mean, I never worked out so much in my life. I'd be working out 3 hours. The nice thing about Equinox is they keep the club clean. I mean, it's pristine. You don't feel funny about going in the showers, the bath. You just it's a very clean club, right? And they also stock towels. So they're washing towels. I didn't have to worry about that washing of the towels. I could grab a towel at the gym, do my thing, put the towel in the laundry chute that they had, and move on. So I was that was like that was great. They also had a steam room. Oh, I know it sounds like misery, but once you start getting used to the steam room, that's the best part. Your muscles are recuperating after all that stretching and lifting or whatever you've been doing. Um, Loved that. I don't I no other gym that I've been to has had a steam room. Some of them have had saunas, but to me, the dry heat's not the same. Um, so I would go every day, and this is the one right in this heart of Hollywood. So you got all the influencers there. You got everybody that wants to be seen and make content for their Instagram or whatever. They're there, So it was a nice club. The club probably knew that all the fitness chicks and whatnot are in there, and they're in a sense, I don't want to say free advertising, but there's marketing going on. So it behooves the club to keep it so pristine. I don't know if Equinox is like that everywhere, but I have a feeling that it is. Because I only find an Equinox in like affluent cities. Put it that way. I would go in there, I'd take, like, I had my gym bag, my duffel bag, and inside of there, I had, like, 5 empty bottles, like Gatorade bottles or stuff like that, and I would use the water fountain to refill those 5 bottles, and that would be, like, my daily ration of water that I used. Um, I had never I don't know of any other gym none of the other gyms I went to had Wi-Fi. at least not for the patrons. But this gym had Wi-Fi, and in fact, they had like a cafe with, tables and chairs. So there were people that would you could come off the street and just go to the cafe um without entering into the club and, working out. So they were catering to that as well and making money off of that. So they offered Wi-Fi. So many a evening, I might have worked out earlier in the morning, and then I'd return and study. Okay. So I used the gym. That was just my way to, I mean, it was a lot of things. It was social interaction, but it was, a way to try to stay clean enough to still function in the world without people noticing, you know. So my gym membership wasn't fitness anymore. It was a large part of my survival. Now, how did I eat every day? There was 2 hustles that I did. I don't know if you're familiar. There's, like, websites for, like, freelance work, and I would try to get clients for YouTube SEO, as well as, like, I could coach actors online, and so a lot of people would when they'd read a little about me, they knew that I was in Hollywood, and I would get people from all over the country, all over the world that would hire me to coach them through auditions and evaluate videos that they sent me of auditions and help them become a better actor. And I was doing that uh, through Zoom. And then I would help people optimize their YouTube channels so that they could get more traffic and get more views. And so those two things helped me pay for my phone bill and my gym membership. And there wasn't much extra. I had to clear a good $400 to $500 every month, and I was able to do that just barely through those resources. So, how I ate was when I still had when I still had the loft, I would walk up and down Hollywood Boulevard from, let's see, I lived like Hollywood and Vine, just a block west of Vine. Okay, so I would walk down to Hollywood and La Brea. I'd walk the strip every morning, just exercise. Get out of the loft and get some fresh air. Um, it was just fun. That was just part of the thing I like to do and talk with some of the business owners about what they were doing, or just see what was attracting tourists. And I would try to drum up like website work and all that, just different type of marketing activity that I could perform as a independent for businesses. But there was enough independent businesses on the strip that was plausible, right? And maybe about a block and a half from me was a brand new pizza shop that was opening up. And so they were replacing a restaurant that I was actually trying to go to, and when I got there, I'm like, "What is this?" And so the guy comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, man, we got this place, and we're renovating it now for us. So, yeah, it's gonna look much different." He said, "You wanna come in and see?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll come check it out." And so I went in there and, I probably spent a good hour with this guy, and we got to know each other, and basically he was like, when we get to that point when we've got walls up and everything situated, perhaps we can do some business together, and I can get you to do some marketing and get some pictures, or pay for some promotion in magazines you're working with, or that was the idea. And then when they opened the place, I mean, it was the best pizza I've ever had. And I'm a pizza guy. I'm a pizza connoisseur. Like this, and I look, I know good New York pizza. I know it. I almost sound blasphemous for saying that the best pizza was anywhere outside of New York, particularly Ray's in New York. Really good pizza. But this pizza, I don't know what this guy put in there, but I mean, just it was the crust, the way he did it was so unique. It was so unique. Um, I loved that pizza. I'm up there one night and I just asked him, I said, "What do you guys do with this pizza at the end of the night that you made? What do you do with it?" And they told me they threw it out. So I said, "Ah, you know, maybe there's an opportunity, a little PR opportunity here. If you like, if you're just gonna throw the pizza away anyway, let me come. I'll come when you close," which was like 2 in the morning. "When you close, I can come by, pick up whatever pizza's left, and I'll pass it out to homeless in Hollywood. I'll pass it out, and some of them I'll take pictures with, and you can post that on social media to show that you guys care about the community." So he liked that idea. So that's what I started doing. M Most nights of the week, I would come by, pick up some pizza, and then walk around a little bit and hand out pizza. And me and these guys were close, like, they were coming over to my loft and seeing, how I had things set up for podcast and shoots and everything. He had a little speakeasy bar in this pizza shop that was hidden. It looked like it was, the door to it looked like a restaurant refrigerator or freezer or whatever, walk-in cooler. And you walked in and boom, it was like a few big screen TVs. Like I said, there was a bar, and lounge seating. It was really cool. They really did a excellent job at the place. And so, like, they would invite me up there when there was a big game or something like that. And so, we became good friends more or less, right? So I'm coming up picking up pizza, and eventually, when I end up living out of my car, I didn't mention it to them that I was living out of my car. I just kept picking up the pizza, only now I'm eating the pizza as well. So I'm eating pizza every day, every meal. And as much as I love pizza and I loved this particular pizza, man, I'm telling you, it's a weird, weird thing. After a month of eating the same thing, it was probably about 3 weeks. After about 3 weeks of eating that pizza, I was kind of like tired of it, tired of eating pizza, which I can't even imagine. I had to take a detox break from pizza once I got back on my feet. But hey, I was happy to be eating anything at all. I see people in Hollywood walking around looking in garbage cans to find something to eat, looking in garbage cans. And I was afraid of that becoming me. But fortunately, because I had this, one of my friends called it, he said, "Oh, that was your ministry." I was like, "Uh-huh, yeah, I like that. My pizza ministry." Um, like a shepherd walking around feeding sheep. That's what I did. And I used that source to, feed a lot of people, and eventually I had to feed myself. I didn't know, man, I didn't realize the moment people could see homelessness on me, that was painful, because it was unexpected. I remember walking down, again, Hollywood Boulevard, and I looked over and I saw a couple, you know, maybe early 30s, just sitting there. They were eating like lasagna, I think is what it was. And I just looked over and it looked good. And I just said that. I just said, "Oh, looks good." And I just kept walking. I kept it moving. And I get down to the end of the block and I hear like, the sound of like kind of feet stomping in a rapid way, and I'm just like, I hear some panting, and I turn around, and the guy had chased me down with a to-go box to hand me this lasagna. And I wasn't saying that to get his lasagna, but I took the lasagna. I accepted it, but I knew I wasn't just accepting the food. I was accepting the truth that I looked like what I was going through. And that was very painful. You talk about feeling undignified and really losing my sense of self and wondering, am I am I going crazy? I'm sitting here telling myself this is temporary. This is temporary. I'm rationalizing, I'm justifying things. I'm having these internal conversations and I'm like, is this what happens? Is this how people lose it and they're talking to themselves? Am I doing that? In the beginning, I still had the confidence that this is very temporary. This isn't going to go on long at all. Um, I have some deals that are going to come to fruition, and I'll get a cheap hotel if I need to, and just stretch out and regroup and rent an Airbnb for a month. That's if that's what that something will happen. But the longer this went on, there was a lot of hidden shame. A lot of hidden shame. I had one family member, cousin of mine, that I confided in. I asked him please not to tell anybody because I was afraid if people in my family knew, somehow this would get to my father some kind of way. And and I didn't want I didn't want to break their hearts. because he was going through so much with my mom already. My mom, we were losing her to dementia, and I just didn't want that to be the end of the story. So, in a weird way, my dad would sometimes, man, I'm jumping all over here, but sometimes he would FaceTime me. It was like I don't know why it was this phase where he FaceTime me. We'd never have done FaceTiming before. I think he wanted to show my mom my face. That had to be it, actually, because sometimes, a lot of times, he had her with him, sitting with him, and I just, I really didn't want, I didn't want them to see what I was going through, and I was trying to keep it together, even though they didn't know. I was trying to keep it together. That was a big part of me not giving up. A big part of me not giving up and feeling like ultimately I've got to get back. I've got to get back to them. I can't let this story end like this. I can see now how people turn to a bottle of liquor and drown their problem, let the time pass. I can see how a cheap bottle of pop off vodka or whatever. I can see the temptation behind that. I understand that now. I really do, in ways that I would not have understood it before. It's numbing. You can numb yourself to what's going on in the environment, what's going on in your reality. But I wasn't gonna let myself go that way. I just didn't know which way it was gonna go. But I had a cousin. He would, man, you know who you are, and I'm so thankful to him because he was somebody I could talk to. I could share what was happening, and he just listened. And he I don't know, he was probably very tempted to tell people at times because I'm sure I put him in a tough position. Um, I don't know how he had the confidence to listen to me, um, and not tell anyone, but he did, and I commend him for that, and he checked in on me regularly. Every 2, 3 days, he would call, and sometimes he'd be the only person I spoke to that week. We still I, uh I don't think I've ever expressed how much that meant to me. It was especially because it was a time where I was dodging calls. I was dodging calls. I was trying to call people, uh, like, let's say someone called, let's say my sister called me, or my brother might have called me. I would try to call them back when I thought I might catch their voicemail. You know, I was hiding. I was hiding. And it wasn't, man, there's two things that come to my mind about it. It's like, on the one hand, I, 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 I realize that my shame probably kept me homeless longer than I needed to be. Somebody would have helped me. I've had, shoot, my New York parents. Every time I talk to my guy, my New York, my New York dad, I'll call him. He tells he'll. I'm mad you didn't tell me. In fact, I talked to him today, and he said, "I'm just angry you didn't call me during that time." And I get that, you know. But the other thing is, the other thought, other reason is not because it's because it wasn't it wasn't just hiding from, people's judgment or whatnot. It wasn't that narrow. It was my way of loving them and protecting everybody from the pain I was going through. It was just as much of that as anything else. I It was just as much about my love for people close to me as it was anything else. So the lesson and closing question I want to end with is, sometimes people are silent because they don't need help. Sometimes they're just silent because the shame has convinced them that they're no longer safe to be seen. That was my truth. So, my closing question is, what pain are you hiding because you're afraid people will look at you differently? What pain are you hiding because you're afraid people will look at you differently? Or, you know what, here's another question. Think about this. Who would you call if pretending to be okay stopped working? Who would you call? Who's that person? I hope you guys have someone like I had my cousin. You need to know who that person is. Okay, next episode, I'll tell you about the friend who heard what I wasn't saying and sent me $1,000 while we were still on the phone. The main message I want you to get from episode 5 is the lowest point of your life may not look dramatic to everyone else. Sometimes it looks like a parked car, a gym shower, slice of leftover pizza. And a person trying to survive without being seen. The world saw Hollywood. I saw the inside of my windshield. It was like standing in a sea of people with no clothes on. Again, I'm just gonna really quickly remind you, if you got something out of this episode, please give it a thumbs up, like, however you can endorse it, or share it with someone else. Send it to someone else. Say, hey, you found something might be interesting. But this kind of activity will help the algorithm share the content with more people. Again, feel free to download the book on deathofacameraman.com. It's free. It's a short book. You'll probably read the whole thing within an hour. All right. Thank you so much.